Good evening. This is the Guilford Board of Education. Tonight is Monday, September 12th. We ask you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Good evening, everyone. It is September. Schools are open again. It's very exciting. I think many of us probably feel summer went way too quickly, but it is always really very exciting to have kids and teachers and staff and everyone back in the building. We, next item on the agenda is the action on our minutes of our Board of Ed meeting from August 8th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Any corrections or comments on those minutes? I did have one correction on the first page, number 3. I'm not quite sure how we do with this, but it's a correction to the corrections. The last correction and the last sentence, provided the superintendent is employed in the district through June 30th, 2023. All right, so there has been a motion and a second. All in favor of the minutes as amended, please say aye.
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 I'm abstaining.
And, okay, great, right, and Mr. Scrutta is abstaining because he was not here. All right. Item number 4 is for public forum for topics on the board agenda only. If anyone in the public would like to address the board on topics on the agenda, you're certainly welcome to do so now. We asked you to come up to the podium. We asked you to limit it to 3 minutes because it will allow others to speak if they'd like to. And we ask, if you do come up, to just give your name and address for the minutes. Is there anyone who would like to address the board on items on the agenda? All right, seeing none, we will go on to review and expenditures for the month of August. I'm going to turn to Mr. Del Ventura.
Thank you, Dr. Balistraci. So I've reviewed the financials with Linda Trudeau, and going through them, it's a pretty basic month. Being August, it's actually pretty easy because it's the first full month. To go through, our expenditures for the month of August were $3,496,141.15. That's 13% of the budget, 13.06 compared to last year of 13.93, so on pace for last year. The only revenue we had was a small amount from our pre-K tuition for $400. Stuff like salaries, employee benefits, those have some variances due to the timing of the first payroll, and those will become normalized as we go through payroll. Tuition, the percentage is a bit higher. Again, that has to do with the timing of payments. Supplies and materials, the percent of the budget expended is higher than the prior year. This variance is due to timing of encumbrances and payments as well. We're purchasing a lot of things for the year now as opposed to stretching out through the whole entire year. When we talk about capital, again, higher than the prior year, a reimbursement for the capital lease will be requested, which will bring the equipment instructional line within budget. Linda Trudeau also noted that there's a new line item that's been added, and that's for our transitional program on Church Street. We'll talk about that a little bit more as we go on. I want to cover that in the operations meeting update, but that's also been added as a line item. And then we reviewed the warrants. The warrants total $2,496,877.64. We went through. The operation committee asked a few questions in terms of just some of those lines on the warrant, and everything was covered. That's all we got.
Wonderful. And we did discuss this in some detail in the Operations Committee meeting just prior to this meeting. But I'll turn to my colleagues if there are other questions or comments to add? None. All right, so can I please have a motion to approve the expenditures for the month of August 2022?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, that's everyone. Wonderful. All right. Number 6 is communications. Are there communications received that anyone wants to report out? None? All right. I would like to take this moment of communications to do one thing, if we could, on behalf of the board and Guilford Public Schools, which is to share this statement in response to the pending litigation that is coming towards the Board of Ed. And this statement is as follows. The Guilford Board of Education is in receipt of a complaint filed by 3 Guilford residents who ran unsuccessfully for election to the Board of Education in 2021. The complaint is being funded by We the Patriots USA Incorporated of Caldwell, Idaho. We categorically reject the false assertions and personal attacks set forth in the complaint against the teachers, administrators, and board members who serve the Guilford education community. Guilford Public Schools do not teach intolerance for different perspectives as alleged. Rather, we teach students about the inherent worth of all persons and the need to promote equity and inclusion of all students, irrespective of their race, religion, economic circumstances, or other factors. Those lessons are informed by many different perspectives, and we strive to present an inclusive and balanced view of the challenges that different individuals confront as we prepare our students to be competent, knowledgeable, and contributing members of society. Any curriculum is subject to critique, and we remain open to hearing different perspectives. However, our curriculum teaches and reinforces basic American values of tolerance, inquiry, and independent thought, and we will not be deterred in those efforts by this litigation. Guilford Public Schools will not try this case in the press and cannot, due to our responsibility to protect the privacy of students involved in the case. Rather, we will vigorously defend against the unwarranted attacks against our teachers, administrators, and board members in the proper forum, federal court. When the facts are established through such proceedings, we are confident that the court will dismiss this complaint as without merit. In the meantime, we are committed to assuring the safety of and respect for all students, irrespective of their political views or those of their parents. This will be posted on the Guilford Public Schools website for reference if anyone is interested. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is student reports. There is actually no report tonight, but I believe we will have our students, I'm looking at Dr. Freeman, next month.
October meeting, correct.
Wonderful. So we certainly look forward to having our student representatives join us. So we were now up to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Ballestraci. And if I may, I'd like to take the items in my report just a little bit out of order. Earlier this evening, board members had the opportunity to have a brief reception to meet some of the new teachers and staff members that we are bringing on to the district this year. As is traditional, we would like to introduce more fully the board and the community to those individuals. Before I go ahead and play the prepared introduction, I just want to offer Jason Bowden an opportunity to make any comments about this incoming class of teachers for the 22-23 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman. Just very briefly, it's been a very busy summer. As you can see, or you will see in the presentation, we have a very talented group of new teachers and staff that we've hired into the district, representing a wide range of experience. We had 2 very productive and wonderful days in new teacher orientation, going through the teaching and learning process here in district and some of our priorities, as well as some of the nuts and bolts of working in Guilford. And I really enjoyed the time that I had spent with the new teachers. At this point, in order to move things along a little bit, is direct your attention to the screen for the introduction of teachers by the teachers themselves and staff. So, Dr. Freeman?
Yep. And before we begin this, I just want to note that this too will be posted to our website tomorrow morning. I'm not sure how it will translate for the audience watching at home, but this will be available to be viewed on the website tomorrow morning. And I just want to thank Lori Hahn for putting this together before I begin this.
Hi, my name is Michael Batista. I'm going to be a teaching resident at A.W. Cox Elementary.
Hi, I'm Maddie Carlovi. I'm going to be the new Spanish teacher at A.W. Cox in Guilford Lake. Hi, I'm Chelsea Costello. I'm a new 4th grade teacher at A.W. Cox.
Hi, my name is Russ Kleiner. I'm teaching music at A.W. Cox, and I am incredibly excited to make music with all the coyotes there.
Hi, my name is Kelly Oliver, and I'll be teaching 3rd grade this year at A.W. Cox. My name is Megan Piombino. I'm a special education teacher at A.W. Cox, and I'm excited to be back.
Hi, I'm Mike Seal, principal of Calvin Lee Elementary School, and I'm thrilled to be in Guilford.
Hi, I'm Nathan Trucks. I'll be a speech language pathologist at Calvin Lake School this year, and I'm looking forward to getting started.
Hi, I'm Caroline Beatty, and I will be teaching special education at Guilford Lakes and Calvin Lee.
Hi, I'm Kelly Inga. I'm the new math coach at Guilford Lakes and Calvin Lee.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Pizzera. I'm a special education teacher at Guilford Lakes School.
Hello, everyone. I'm Heather Santasero. I'm the new kindergarten teacher at Guilford Lakes Elementary, and I'm very excited to meet you all, and I'm so happy to be here. Hi, I'm Hannah Makula. This year I'll be a 1st grade teacher at Melissa Jones. I'm so excited for the year.
Hi, I'm Brian Searles, and I'm a special education teacher at Melissa Jones.
My name is Liz Stefanski, and I'm so happy to teach kindergarten at Melissa Jones School.
Hi, my name is Erin Marchetti. I'm the ELL teacher at the elementary level, and I'm so excited to be back this year.
Hi, my name is Shannon Bernard. I'm going to be the speech language pathologist at Baldwin Middle School, and I am so excited to be here.
Hi, my name is Dawn Emmerman. I'm going to be the chorus teacher at Adams and Baldwin.
Hi, I'm Lisa Butler. I'm teaching at Adams Middle School, special education grades 7 and 8.
My name's Matt DePalma. I'm teaching social studies at Adams Middle School, and I'm glad to be back. Go Raiders.
Hi, I'm Ashley Glorioso, and I'm going to be teaching 8th grade math at Adams Middle School. I'm very excited to be part of the Guilford family.
Hi, my name is Melissa Minicky, and I'll be teaching special education at Adams Middle School.
Hi, I'm Garen Mullen. I'm the new principal at Adams Middle School. I'm so excited to be here and get this year started.
Hi, my name is Isabel Reyna. I am going to be the middle school art teacher for Adams, and I'm super excited.
Hi, my name is Meredith Allen, and I'm teaching chemistry and physics at Guilford High School. Hi, I'm Sabrina Kosh. I'm going to be teaching master-based diploma assessment at Guilford High School, and I'm very excited to be here. Hi, I'm Molly McKenna, and I'm an English teacher at Guilford High School.
Hi, I'm Rick Bailey. I'll be teaching special education at Guilford High School.
Hi, I'm Leah Schatzline. I will be teaching health and PE at Guilford High School.
Hi, my name is Reese Stashke. I'm teaching technical education at Guilford High School.
Hi, my name is Kayla Stevens. I'm going to be the new math teacher at Guilford High School.
And we are very excited to enter this welcome.
I think, Dr. Freeman, it's important to note that there are a couple of Guilford graduates in that presentation.
Yeah, students returning to us and now working in classrooms from which they had graduated, which is also very, very exciting. I also want to take this opportunity to make one correction to the agenda as it was posted tonight and to make another introduction. I do want to call out that I will not be introducing an interim superintendent at this time. That is a typo on the agenda. I will take this opportunity to make very, very clear, I am far from done. I expect to be in Guilford for some time and look forward to continuing my work with the students and team here in Guilford Public Schools. We apologize for that. I do, however, want to take this opportunity to introduce the interim assistant superintendent for curriculum, instruction, and assessment. We are into the early stages of a search to find Dr. Crystal's, not replacement, but successor in that office. While we conduct that search, we are very fortunate to have Mr. Jody Gohler, who is joining us as the interim assistant superintendent. Jody has been a friend for a long, long time. Jody has been a teacher, a principal, and an assistant superintendent for curriculum, instruction, and assessment in the Avon school system. He has most recently served as the superintendent of Hamden Public Schools, a position from which he has just recently retired, and then moved directly in with us to help us with our transition here in our office. So I am really appreciative of Jody's help and very pleased to be able to introduce him tonight to you, the board, and to the community at large. Jody, thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I look forward to working with, I wouldn't do this for anyone. August 31st was my last day as a Hamden superintendent, and September 6th, I believe, was my first day in Guilford, but I did get a chance to enjoy the professional development that you offer your teachers and excellent work on that. So it's great to be here, and I look forward to working with you all.
Well, welcome. We're thrilled to have you and appreciate your willingness to come join us. So terrific. And we did have several of the board members were able to go convocation. So we got the announcement of your joining us then as well, and also got to meet a number of these new teachers, and then had a reception just prior to this meeting. We had another opportunity. So just welcome to all the new teachers and staff joining us. It's always exciting. It's an exciting time of year, and it's great to see happy faces and people eager to get in the classroom. So terrific.
And that does lead to my next item. So I do want to update the board and the community a little bit about these first few opening days. And so prior to Labor Day, we had 3 full professional development days where we invited the full staff back into the schools. And we had 3 really rich and exciting days with our teaching staff and staff here in the buildings. On our first day back, we were really fortunate to have Tony Wagner with us. Tony is most well known for his work at the Harvard Graduate School of Education and his work with the high-tech high school system. Tony really is recognized. Tony's recognized broadly and specifically recognized by me as one of the most important thinkers and writers, and I just think encouragers around really centering the student. He focuses on the idea of play and purpose and passion for students in their learning, and he very much focuses on centering the child and talks about learning through doing. For us to have Tony with us on that first day of school, I know excited some of our teachers. There are some who have been longtime big fans, but it also in the dragging tail of this pandemic, it connected us back to our foundations. It reminded us about our principles of learning and the work that we focus on, and being together as a whole group to have Tony remind us of that history before then breaking up into small groups to begin looking at our new portrait of the graduate, which I'll be sharing with all of you in the community later in tonight's agenda. And then to head back into the buildings was really a wonderful way to start the school year. On our second day together, we did something that was very unusual in Guilford. We brought all of the teachers back together again. And on that second day, we worked with Dr. Mira Levinson, also from Harvard School of Education, and we worked with Professor Levinson talking about creating the sorts of safe and brave classrooms that we spent last year discussing, that Dr. Seiler recommended that our teachers need more time discussing and talking about. Professor Levinson really talked to us about the importance of teaching both in and for democracy, small d democracy. How do we create classrooms that are safe for all students to share their experiences, thoughts, ideas in? That was the first part of 2 days. Professor Levinson and colleagues will be back on November 8th, the next full professional development day that we have, to continue to work with teachers about the tools that they will need to employ to create, again, those brave and safe classroom spaces that we've been discussing as a community. Around those 2 whole staff events, and again, I want to clarify, those were all of the teachers in the Guilford Public Schools, not just 5 through 8 teaching staff, but all of the teaching staff from pre-K through 5 through 12, pre-K through 12, working on those activities together in those first couple of days. There were also 3 days that were rich in activities back at the building level, where principals were introducing new staff members, where new principals were introducing themselves. Teachers were having time to get their classrooms set up, to work with grade level or department level colleagues. So 3 full days of really rich welcome back and returning to school. With the bell this afternoon, we have now just concluded our 5th day of students back in the district. And those also have been really uplifting and really exciting. There really is a spirit and an enthusiasm to this school year. Seeing students return, seeing them return to a school year that feels more familiar and more normal than any school year in the last 3 years, the last 2 openings, is really, really exciting. And because I know this is often a question when we give the opening updates, even though our first day of school was torrential rain all day long, our school buses have run really, really well this year. So even on the first day of school, AM arrivals worked really smoothly. I want to thank the community members who are putting students back on the school buses this year. We have smaller lines of parental drop-off. The traffic is backing up less into the community. Morning arrivals have worked really well. On that first day of school, in the driving rain, our last student was dropped off at 5:05, which is not bad for the first day of school. But today, on the 5th day of school, our last student was dropped off at 4:40 this afternoon. So the bus company is learning the routes, the drivers are becoming more familiar. Most importantly, our students are remembering where their bus parks at the end of the day and what stop they get off, and things are really beginning to work more smoothly, more efficiently. We expect we'll pick up a few more moments in improvement, but I really want to thank Mr. Chip Dorwin for his work on the bus routes this year, Jason Bowden for his work, and our bus company and drivers who have really done an exceptional job adding to what has been a really positive and enthusiastic opening this year. And Dr. Balistracci, I can certainly pause for questions or conversation.
Yeah, go ahead.
One second. In terms of that training, I did hear wonderful things about that. Is there any talk about opening it up to paras and support staff? Because, right, it's everybody that creates that environment. I know they're not technically on the books, but at least offer it.
It's a really good question. At this point, we're sort of moving into lesson design, and so, I think it's a really good question. It's an exciting question. It's not one that we've planned for so far, but something I'm absolutely interested in looking into, how we make that more supportive of everybody who creates those environments, as well as around the lesson design. That's a really good, thank you, it's a good note.
Sure. I just had a question about great report on buses. We know the beginning of the school year always, right, has a few hiccups in timing. I'm guessing we're okay with bus drivers, right? We know there are shortages in other places.
There are shortages all over. Our bus company did a great job filling the buses, and we had nearly a completely full complement of drivers on that first day. There may have been 1 or 2 bus runs that I was aware of that we had to combine. But
Okay.
with those combined routes. And I'm not sure if those were vacancies or if those were last-minute illnesses or
Right,
COVID
okay.
positives that impacted that first day.
Okay.
I'll just follow up with that. You have several drivers still in training that came on in August, so there's a period of time that the training takes.
Right.
So they're looking to supplement the drivers that they have, especially for athletic runs in the
Right,
afternoon.
right.
So
We know that's an
we're
issue.
hoping to
Okay.
have those new drivers on board in the next couple of weeks.
Great.
And again, we very much appreciate everybody's patience. The bus routes are never completely
Right.
smoothed out in these first few days, and the community and the parents have been really understanding of
That's
the
great.
learning curve that goes into those.
Other
Similarly,
questions?
I'm sorry.
Nope, I think everyone's fine. Go ahead.
Similarly, I do want to report on, I'll give you a hiring report and a vacancy report at this time. Bus companies are not the only ones who are experiencing employee shortages. We are continuing to experience some challenges here in district. For certified instructional positions, I did just remind everybody that we currently have a vacancy for an assistant superintendent for curriculum instruction and assessment. We are in the process. We're beginning that search. We also currently still have 5 teacher vacancies. That is highly unusual for us in Guilford to make it into the first week of school and to have 5 vacancies. Those vacancies currently exist in a Spanish position that is shared between Jones and Leet. We have a teacher in that position. Currently, we're providing students with a STEM experience while we continue to look for a properly certified and qualified world language teacher to begin the language instruction at those 2 schools. We have a grade 1 and a media specialist vacancy that both exist at Cox. Those were late resignations that we became aware of. Those are both currently filled with substitutes as we work to fill those. We have a vacancy for a part-time French teacher here at the high school, and we have a vacancy for a special education teacher at Baldwin. The world language and special education positions are shortage areas statewide, and they are a challenge. To put our vacancies in some sort of context, we're running 5 certified teacher vacancies and a staff of about 335 certified teachers. Some of the larger districts in the state of Connecticut are currently running teacher vacancies at 14% of their teaching staff, and they are still working to fill. If we were running a vacancy of 14%, we'd be looking at 40 or 42 vacancies in our teaching staff. So we are being impacted. We also currently still hold a vacancy in our nurse director position. So while all of our schools are fully staffed with nursing staff, Mr. Bowden is currently functioning as our nurse director until we completely fill that position as well. And that is a result of the employment shortage that everybody is seeing and the teacher shortage specifically. So it's been a greater challenge than it has been in Guilford in past years, but we are doing better than some other districts around the state in filling those positions. Those are some of our highest priorities as we continue to work to fill those positions. I also wanted to draw the board's attention to an enrollment update that we provided in your packet for tonight. I want to remind the board that this is just a preliminary snapshot on day 1. Remember that the official enrollment day is October 1st statewide, so this is not our official enrollment for this school year. But as of this first day, I wanted to draw your attention to a few key items. The exhibit that you have obviously focuses at the elementary level. It allows you to see the elementary sections. Currently, in grades K through 4, we are running an average class size in Guilford of 18.6. That is a really positive class size. We know in Guilford we focus on the relationships in the classroom, and we know that class size matters. It is difficult when you have 4 neighborhood schools covering 5 grade levels to balance that completely, but I will draw the board's attention to the additional kindergarten section that we added at Jones, where we currently have kindergarten sizes of 14 and 15 across 4 sections rather than 3 that we had originally budgeted for. I also want to draw your attention to the additional section that we added at Leet, where we currently have second grade class sizes of 15 and 16, where we would have been running class sizes of 23s if we had stayed at 2 sections. I want to note that those are positions that are not, they were not originally budgeted in this year's budget. Those are unbudgeted positions. We also added some additional unbudgeted special education positions to the budget this year. We are confident that we will meet those expenditures, but again, I just want to draw your attention to this. We will have another update for you at your October meeting, which will then have the official October 1 numbers. But we feel good about the decisions that were made and appreciate the board's support in adding those additional teaching positions. There are some highs. I believe that you see a high class size of 22s and 23s in some of our fourth grade classes, specifically at Jones and at Lakes. But again, really, really good elementary numbers that will allow our teachers the opportunity to get to know their students well and to meet those needs at the individual level at the classroom, in the classrooms.
And higher than the average, but within the board policies recommended, right?
Absolutely. It's within our teacher contract limits
Yep.
and within the recommended ranges that this board targets and publishes in your policy documents.
All right. Any questions or? And Dr. Freeman, you noted that, at the last meeting that we are going to be funding a new demographic, not funding. We're going to be
Yes.
funding a new demographic study, which has been such a valuable tool to us in the past for future planning.
Absolutely. So that demographic study that we have used for some time now is reaching the end of
Right.
its life. We just met last week. We are pulling together all the materials that
Okay.
the new demographer will require of us to create a new demographic study. And that question gives me a good opportunity to remind the board and to remind the community that in this last legislative session, we had the law around Connecticut's open choice amended to allow the town of Guilford to participate in the open choice program statewide that is centered around the New Haven population area. This new demographic study is going to help inform us as to how many seats we should be able to thoughtfully and carefully make available to students who are currently enrolled in the New Haven schools or similar schools, and give those students the opportunity to attend our Guilford schools through the open choice program. We will have lots more conversation. We will ask presenters from ACES to come and to speak to the board and to speak to the community about this state program, about how the program works. But the new legislation gives us the opportunity to participate, should we choose to, as a
Right.
community. And that demographic study will help us to make the decision about whether we should participate and to what level we can participate without increasing costs or expenditures here in the Guilford Public Schools, but to use anticipated capacity to give
Right.
that opportunity to students to
Okay.
attend the Guilford schools.
Terrific. Questions, thoughts? All righty.
I do have one last item in my report tonight, and to
Yeah.
do that, I'm going to ask for a little bit of help. It is customary at our September meeting to update you on the summer learning opportunities that we have provided to the students of Guilford. And tonight, to help do that, I'm going to invite Dr. Jennifer Orgavan, a teacher at Baldwin Middle School and the director of this year's summer program, to come join us at the podium or the table, Jen, wherever you're more comfortable, and give you an update on how the summer programming went this year. And thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
I'm so excited to be here to share with you about the summer. I'm going to quickly go through the information from this summer. So it was the 2022 Summer Learning Pathways Program. It was a 4-week program, 4 in-person learning days per week, Monday through Thursday this year, which was a shift from last year, where it was a hybrid model, and the year before that, when it was totally virtual. We had 160 students participate this year, grades K through 10. That was a 60% increase from last summer. 14 learning pathways were offered for our K through 10 students, and there were 7 high school volunteers this year that earned hours for their graduation requirement, and that was very exciting. Some of the learning pathways that were offered included design a robot, design a mini golf course, passion project, theme park design, TED Talks, making space for change, environmentally friendly spaces, and forensic entomology. Guest speakers this year included, again, Meg's Point Nature Center, the Guilford High School Robotics Club, an architect came, a carpenter came and spoke with students, and a farmer visited with students via Zoom this summer. 87% of rising kindergarten students improved their phonemic skills, identifying letter and sounds based on pre- and post-assessment data. 40-plus students attended the Park and Recreation Aftercare program. That's such an important partnership for the Summer Learning Pathways program. That represents a 128% increase from last summer. There was a wait list for that program, and more students would have participated in the Summer Learning Pathways if they had had that extended day option, but they maxed out their numbers. And the kids love the Park and Rec program because they go to the beach twice a week and play lots of fun games after focused on their projects with us in the morning. The parents who participated in end of program survey, 100% noted that they would have their students return next summer. Some parent comments included, the biggest benefit that my children received from their participation of Pathways was they got to create and collaborate on topics that are not necessarily focused during the school year. Another parent stated, my son loved it. He came home with new vocabulary words that he learned, how robots are used in everyday life and different strategy. He also made some new friends. The teachers were wonderful. Such a great experience. Students expressed, and this is grades 5 through 10, one student noted, one of the ideas I took away was now I know how important having a passion is. Another student stated, many different people have very interesting ideas. Another noted, I like the building part. And finally, another stated, the most challenging thing was probably deciding what I wanted to do for my project, because they had to decide. This was really also like a learning laboratory for teachers. Teachers expressed that I learned that my students love the opportunity to show their thinking in creative ways. The students really got to dive into a subject they were interested in and enjoyed spending time exploring just the topic in great depth. Another teacher reported, I learned that students are pretty resilient when it comes to setbacks and struggles. They gained a better appreciation for working through any difficulties and for looking at situations from different perspectives. And finally, another student reported, allowing students the opportunity to work through their understandings and providing them time to research and refine their own questions affords me, as an educator, more time to conference with students and better guide their work and understandings. It was a successful summer. The kids had a great time. The students had a great time. I had a great time. And thank you to the principal and the faculty at Guilford High School. This is such a wonderful facility to be able to host this program. So thank you.
Thank you
Thank you,
for
Jen,
coming.
and thank you for being here tonight to
Yes.
share that.
Does anybody have any, do you mind answering
No,
a question if anyone?
by all
Any
means.
questions or?
What's our capacity for increasing the size?
We did not hit our limits for any of the pathways, so there was room, and we were talking out in the hallway that we actually had word of mouth, students going home talking about it with their neighbors who were able to join once the program had started. So it was open enrollment, and we didn't max out. The holdback was really being able to find that aftercare, especially for working families. And Park and Rec did a phenomenal job at maximizing it safely for students.
And I think, Jen, we had less of a challenge staffing with teachers this summer. Last summer, I think you remember, we scaled back a little bit. Teachers were
Exhausted.
worn out.
Right.
We had
Right.
This year, I think we saw some rebound, and we saw increase in teacher interest in taking pathways and leading sessions.
And we followed the model of some of the other programs in the district, doing a Monday through Thursday schedule, which was very appealing to the teachers. There was feedback from parents, just as many who would prefer to have had the 5th day, just as many loved having the long
Four-day
weekend
week.
to explore over the summer.
And you and Dr. Crystal in the past have noted that it really is not only a great opportunity for our students, but it really allows teachers to learn about things that they can then put into use in the classroom once the school year starts.
Right.
It's not the first time we've heard you say that. It's
Right.
great.
The Universal Design of Learning Framework is used to design the pathways. And it's project-based, inquiry-based learning. And the amount of teachers who are now bringing it back, those frameworks and those ideas back into the classroom is tremendous.
That's
It's
great.
very exciting.
I think it's safe to say Tony Wagner would love it.
Tony Wagner would love it.
And it really is a professional development opportunity for teachers if they
Yeah.
haven't experimented with this sort of approach, to try it in a place that is smaller, more contained, a little safer, learn about it, become more confident, and then bring those ideas and those strategies into their full classroom over the course of a full school year.
And it's really representative districts of teachers from across the district.
That's great, too.
That
Yeah.
are teaching in the Pathways program.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
And with Dr. Orgaban, that does complete my report tonight, unless there are other questions from the board.
Any other questions? All right. Well, that's great. It's fun to hear about that summer program every year. It
You know,
really
Dr.
is.
Bellas-Tracy, maybe the only other thing that I would note, you know, part of the welcome back letter that I sent out to the community, and part of my comments on that convocation day was also built around the idea of the sense of hope that we're coming back. I'm hearing from colleagues around the state that this is the most positive, uplifting, energized, hopeful return to school that people have experienced in several years now, and Guilford absolutely, I would say, fits right into that category. From New Year's celebrations happening at our buildings on the first day of school, even in the rain, there was music playing as buses arrived at some of our schools on that first day. There really is a feeling of enthusiasm and positivity and hope as we come back, and I just can't credit the community and the teachers and all of the staff enough for bringing that with them and for sharing in that. Our kids are just happy to be back, and it's
That's
a lot.
All right, so we're now up to the board agenda. 9.1 is to act on personnel items. As happens at this time of year, we have several names here. So first, we are being asked to ratify the appointment of the following teachers. Dawn Emmerman, Adams and Baldwin Middle Schools, chorus music teacher. Nathan Trucks, Leet Elementary School, speech language pathologist. Ashley Glorioso, Adams Middle School mathematics teacher. Elizabeth Stefanski, Jones Elementary School kindergarten teacher. Heather Santarciero, Lakes Elementary School kindergarten teacher. Schatzlein, Guilford High School PE health teacher. Kayla Stevens, Guilford High School mathematics teacher, a one-year assignment. Hannah McCula, Jones Elementary School grade 1 teacher. Shannon Bernard, Baldwin Middle School speech language pathologist. And Danielle Love, Leet Elementary School grade 4 teacher. Is there a motion to ratify the appointment of all of these teachers? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's everyone. Terrific. We are asked to please ratify the resignation for the purpose of retirement. The following administrators: Anine Crystal, our Assistant Superintendent of Schools for Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. Is there a motion to ratify that resignation?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's everyone. Thank you. And then finally, please ratify the resignations of the following teachers: Emily Farnsworth, kindergarten teacher at Jones Elementary School. Jessica Dyken at Cox Elementary School grade 1 teacher, and Susan Parody, Cox Elementary School library media teacher. Is there a motion to ratify the resignation of these teachers?
So moved.
Second? Thanks, Jen. All in favor? Aye. All right, terrific. Thank you, everybody. All right. Next, we are being asked to act on a textbook recommendation. This is an AP United States history text. This was brought to the board last month as a receive item. It has been at Lathrop House downtown on the Green, if anyone wanted to go and spend some time looking through it. We are now being asked to approve the purchase of this textbook. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, terrific. Thank you. Next, we are being asked to approve a donation of $1,701.50 for the salary of an assistant field hockey coach from the GHS Stick Club. I will note that a number of our booster clubs do a terrific job of raising money and finding ways to support many of our teams in Guilford Public Schools, and we thank them tremendously. In this case, we are approving this donation, again, from the GHS Stick Club for an assistant field hockey coach. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Scudder. Mrs. Baldwin, second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
All right, terrific. And again, a thank you to the GHS Stick Club for that donation. Next, we are being asked to act on the portrait of the graduate. This is actually really exciting. I'm very excited about this. Not only was this in our packet, but I think we'll all find this in the folders that are here for us for this meeting tonight. I am going to turn this over, Dr. Freeman, to you. This is a work that's been going on for some time. It's involved not only our teachers and administrators, but members of the community. Moira was our Board of Ed representative, and it's just exciting to start seeing this. So.
I'm really happy to be able to share this with you tonight. First, a portrait of a graduate is relatively new in the field, but it really encourages a community to think about what they want for their students, for their children, at the conclusion of your 13 years of schooling. After a student has spent 13 years in the Guilford Public Schools, how would we want to describe that graduate as they walk across the stage? School districts across the country have been using a portrait of the graduate in the same way that districts in the past have used a vision statement. It gives you that pole star to look towards, and it becomes an organizing foundational document for all the work that we do. As we had lots of conversations through the budget season about the mastery-based graduation requirement, we talked quite a bit about the portrait of the graduate. The IB program has a portrait of the graduate that is shared internationally among the international baccalaureate programs. Our high school has been working locally with essentially their own homegrown portrait of the graduate based on that IB profile, and because NEASC requires high schools who are NEASC accredited to have the portrait of the graduate. We were excited to take that work and to draw it across the entire district. We delayed that with the beginning of the pandemic. In fact, Guilford is a little late to creating a portrait of the graduate. We have lots of neighboring and sister districts around the state who have done really good work in this area. We partnered in this work, or we invited to facilitate this work, Battelle for Kids. Battelle is an educational consultant organization that works with school districts that has really done good work in this space. And I would encourage board members and community members to visit Battelle's website and to look at the gallery of portraits of the graduate that they have collected from schools with whom they've worked, and some that they just liked and have included in their gallery on their website. I'm excited enough to say that I think Guilford's is one of the best. I think that we have done particularly good work in creating our portrait of the graduate. To Dr. Balistraci's point, this is work that we've been engaging in for over a year. Oops. This is work that we've been doing for some time now. I'm going to wait and see if that happens again because we still have the timer on these slides.
Okay.
I'm going to stop here for a minute, and then I will walk you through these slides as we move forward. We have been engaged in this work for the past year. In the summer of last summer, so in the summer of '21, our leadership team met with a representative from Battelle and talked about the process and talked about how we would structure our design of the portrait of the graduate here locally in Guilford. Went through the format that they often use and modified and customized that to fit our community better. From August through November of last year, Dr. Crystal was working closely with representatives and facilitators from Battelle to shape that work and to get invitations out to community members. To your point, Dr. Balistraci, we invited some 80 community members to participate in this process. We invited current students, we invited alumni, we invited parents, community members, board members, both past and present, to participate, as well as community members at large and community leaders at large. That working group met from November until about May of last year, and to be really honest, 80 people I don't think ever came to one meeting, but any individual meeting drew probably between 30 and 40 of those participants, and those participants sort of drifted in and out between the meetings, and then there were electronic communications that continued to be pushed out. In May of last year, a representative group of the leadership team, so the administrative team, met and did some editing and wordsmithing to the sort of distillation process that the large community group went through. They took all of the hopes and dreams that we had for our students and worked as a group through an iterative process to distill those down to what we saw as the most essential components. The leadership group didn't change those decisions, did not change those characteristics. We did some wordsmithing and editing and worked on things that make me crazy, like parallel construction in these public documents. We needed to spend some time just cleaning that up. From June through July, Lori Hahn and I worked with the designers at Battelle to make sure that the presentation of this was going to be presented in the way that we thought presented us in our community in a way that would be personal and important to us here in Guilford. In August, we brought that finished product back this August to this leadership team, which, by the way, is different. We've had some change in the leadership team over the last year. So the new team this product and unpack that product, pull it apart, really do a close read of that final presentation. In these 3 opening professional development days that I mentioned, it was really exciting to have the opportunity to present this document to our teachers as they returned and then to our staff as they returned. And right after listening to and talking with Tony Wagner, our teachers went out into the commons here at the high school, sat together with teachers from kindergarten through 12th grade. They were mixed across the district, so the teachers were sitting with folks from different buildings they don't usually work with, and they went through an activity of closely reading and unpacking what they saw in this portrait of the graduate. And then we bring it here to you tonight to begin a long introduction to the community, and are bringing it to you tonight really excited and really asking for your approval of this as we bring it to you tonight. The portrait of the graduate consists of 6 attributes or characteristics or mindsets that we are really excited to identify, to see in our students. What's exciting to me is I don't think that anybody who looks at this, who knows our school, who knows our pedagogy, who knows our classrooms well, I don't think anybody is going to see that and think there's something radical and new. I think they're going to say, that's a really good description of what we do well, and that's a really good description of the students who walk across our stage every June on the green. And if you're not recognizing it, I do want to note that the graphics that we've included are our Guilford green. And so if you know the sidewalks of the green, and if you, right, it really does represent us and our community. More important than the graphics, however, are the different attributes themselves. And you have in your packets tonight a sheet that breaks those down, identifies the 6 competencies or attributes that we are moving towards, and includes brief descriptions of each of them. I know that this is impossible to read from the screen, so I have broken those down into individuals. But as we think about the students who we graduate from the Guilford Public Schools, we want our students, and this is so important, and again, to everything that Tony Wagner talks about and focuses on, Our students will need to be adaptable learners. The fact is, we don't know what world we will graduate this year's kindergartners, first graders, fifth graders, eighth graders. We don't even know the world that we will graduate our freshmen into. The world is changing at a rate that is exceptionally quick. Our students need to know how to learn. We can't teach them everything they will need to know 10 years after they've graduated high school, but we can help them to be the adaptable learners that they will need to be. We know that our students are going to need to be responsible collaborators. Learning and work happen in isolation infrequently now. We know that our students learn best in cooperative settings. We know that intelligence grows best when it is socialized among a group of learners. We know that our students will need to know how to work with each other, listen to each other, honor diverse ideas, and express themselves bravely and confidently and civilly and respectfully in those settings. This is an important component for our students as they graduate. They're going to have to be effective communicators. No matter how well they know something, you have to be able to express that to others. And no matter how well you know all the things you think you know, you need to be able to listen effectively to others. Communication is simply growing as an important skill. It's always been important, but it is more so. Our students are going to require that ability. Our students need to be critical thinkers and consumers of knowledge. Tony talks a lot about how we have evolved from the information age into the design age. It used to be, when I was in school, that if I needed to research a topic, I had to go to a special place called the library to do that. I had to carve out isolated time in which I could be in that space. When I was in that space, there was an expert there staffing that library who was there to assist me and guide me, and I could go in with the expectation that any information I found in that space had already been curated and vetted. Our students do not have any of those guardrails. Research happens every night across my dinner table when I tell my sons what year some song dropped and they correct me in real time because they look it up and tell me I was wrong. That was not the year that Bruce Springsteen released The River. It was this year, Dad, because I just found it right here.
1970, 1980.
I did that for you. I knew you would know that. Research happens all the time with a tool that we all carry and that most of our students carry in their pockets. However, what they have access to has not been curated or vetted in most cases. Our students need to know how to be critical readers, critical consumers, critical thinkers in every sense of the word, in every discipline. This is one of the most important foundational competencies or attributes that we need to continue to grow with our students. Our community also believed that it was important that our students need to be empathetic individuals, that they need to be open-minded and sensitive. They need to listen and collaborate and cooperate and communicate with others with a sense of what those others are experiencing as well. And while we can never truly walk in anybody else's shoes, we can be better and more effective and successful adults if we can learn to more effectively empathize with the others with whom we will be cooperating, collaborating, and on whom our decisions will have some impact. I was really, really excited and proud that the community group that came together raised this concern, this attribute to the list of 6 that made it into our final document. And finally, our students are going to need to be global citizens. No student lives in Guilford only. If a student lives in Guilford, that means they live in Connecticut. And while Guilford may not be a particularly diverse community, Connecticut is. And if they live in Connecticut, that means they live in these United States. And if they live in these United States, that means they live in a global, interconnected society. And we have to think bigger than the 4 walls of our classrooms or the 7 buildings of our school district or Guilford as a standalone community. And again, I was really excited that the group that came together recognized how important this attribute was. So altogether, those 6 attributes come to represent the compass that we have put together that floats above our Guilford green. And in the early reception that the portrait is receiving, as we rolled it out to teachers in those first days and asked for their feedback, we had 57 working groups of teachers. I haven't gotten through all the feedback that we received. Again, it's going to be timed. But teachers recognized that these attributes cut across subject areas and grade levels. I'm only going to do this a couple more times. These are lifelong skills. This is a common vocabulary that students can have in their hands. They know what we will be asking of them, and they will see the end result. This is not a document that teachers will hold in secret. This is a document that we will spend this year sharing with the community. Teachers will be rolling out at the school levels. Students will be engaging with in the classroom. And at the high school level, in that mastery-based graduation class requirement, these are the 6 learnings that the students will be asked to illustrate. In your 13 years in the Guilford Public Schools, how can you show us that you have become a responsible collaborator, a global citizen, an adaptable learner, an effective communicator, an empathetic individual, and at the heart of all of that, a critical thinker? The high school specifically is going to be working on rubrics to help the teachers in those mastery-based graduation classes to be able to show the students at an even more detailed level what it means to illustrate these capabilities, these skills, these mindsets, these aptitudes, or these dispositions that we look for in our students. So Dr. Balistraci, you're right. This is really exciting. It was a lot of fun to roll this out to teachers and staff last week. I'm really excited to finally be presenting it here to all of you, and I really look forward to the board's questions, conversation, and hopefully approval so that we can more formally and aggressively begin rolling this out to the community at large.
Before I take questions, I wanted to ask if you wanted to add
we're gonna do the
anything
same.
as someone who was
No,
on
it
this.
was, it was such a really wonderful experience because it literally brought the community together from all facets of life and all walks of life and experiences in the community. And we did it all by Zoom because it was such a large group, but they'd send us into these breakout groups and you didn't really know who you'd end up with. And it was great because we all struggled with this a lot and had amazing conversations about the minutia of words and language, to get to where we are in this one document. But just to understand, there was so much consideration and thought put into it and so many stimulating conversations. And what was so rewarding was that everyone had a passion for our school district for a different reason, a parent or a grandparent or, like you said, a past staff member or something. But and it was a really intellectual exercise for everybody. And at the end, it's like you said, we kind of all laughed at it because we were like, well, this is our student. We're not creating a new model here. This is just we're reinforcing all the things that we've been working on for so many years and even before my time. But it was a really rewarding experience. It was hard. It wasn't easy at times, the conversations you had, because you didn't want to whittle it down. There were so many characteristics you wanted to include, but I'm really pleased with it, and I had a very little bit of part of it, but I was thankful to be a part of it.
If there was something surprising or new here, then I would think that we hadn't done the job properly, right?
Yeah.
And what this really does, I think, is it gives everybody in Guilford, the broad Guilford educational community, it gives all of us the elevator speech. If you're traveling around the country and you meet somebody and they ask you about the schools that your kids attend and what are those schools like, this becomes the answer.
Yeah.
These are the things we value, and this will become the design tool moving forward when we make budget decisions, when we make curricular decisions, when we make design, programmatic, or textbook decisions. Do those things point in this direction? And if they don't point in this direction, then we have to think really carefully about why we think that that's the right decision to make at this time.
And what I liked about this too, never was it about a high-achieving student, right? It wasn't about that. It wasn't about academic prowess and being at the top of your class. This applied to every student's individual capabilities. These are all characteristics that you want them to take out into the world, into their lives forever. It's not about being great at math or English. It's so much bigger than that. And so it was, I think parents will be pleased and teachers will be pleased to see that as well. Yeah.
And I think that's really, right, this doesn't preclude a report card that you want to hang
No.
on your refrigerator, but it is so much
Doesn't demand
bigger
it.
and deeper
Yeah.
than that.
Right.
And I think this really describes the things that we all want for our children, right? It becomes the things that we all hope for our kids as we launch them into adult life, right? If our kids can be these things, then our kids are going to be successful moving through life, regardless of their transcript.
Yeah.
It's an amazing statement for our community in general. I mean, it really is. So tell me, though, it's a document now, right? It's a living document. Where are the families of Guilford going to be seeing this? Where is this going to be evident in day-to-day, or just where is it going to play into their life?
So in a few moments, we're going to move on to the next agenda item about priorities and initiatives. And initiative number 1 for this school year will be continuing to roll out this Portrait of the Graduate to the community, and then ensuring moving forward that all future decisions are aligned to this Portrait of the Graduate. But first, with this board's approval and anticipating this board's approval, this will be posted to our website, and this will become the content of our first Our Direction newsletter, where there will be a written and slightly lengthier version of the presentation that I just presented to all of you. How did we come to this? What resources did we rely on? And introduce this. Principals and teachers will be continuing to roll this out and unpack this in real time across the school year. I expect that we will be scheduling opportunities to create evening events where I will be present, and some of the principals and some of the teachers will be present to talk about this with any community members so that we're not asking the community to sit in an audience and receive this, but we're giving them an opportunity to ask questions and to engage with it, to do some of those small table group activities that we did with the teachers last week. We might show them a little bit of a Tony Wagner talking about the future world of work and asking them, what did you see in that presentation and what do you see in the portrait that will help get our kids ready for that world that futurists are envisioning for our kids. It's going to become a full year of pushing it out to the community. This will become foundational to the budget presentations and conversations that we have this year. I will not make a budget presentation that doesn't include reference to the Portrait of the Graduate this year. And it will become that foundational document for the district moving forward.
That's great. The river is 1980.
I did not question Mr. Goller here.
I looked it up.
For a moment.
Go ahead.
So a predictable question that we'll get is, where does the notion of knowledge mastery come in, given that knowledge of history, science, math, art, necessary to become a critical thinker or empathic learner? Where does that fit in here, given that we hire teachers to teach that as well as this, but it doesn't show up here explicitly? So what's our response to that kind of a question?
I appreciate that question. So I would suggest that the important content lives implicitly across the entire document, most specifically in the area of critical thinking. You cannot become a critical thinker if you are not wrestling with content that is deep and valuable and worthy of that sort of wrestling. There is, in this moment, content that is valuable in and of itself because it is important content knowledge to have. The difficult thing, I think, for educators today is trying to nail down that set and immutable list, right? The list of great books just isn't what it is 100 years ago and won't be tomorrow what it is today. But you can't reach many of these things without engaging with that important content. It's also important to note that this is not a curricular document. Much of those content decisions live in the curriculum documents that will exist below this. So I guess, Dr. Hirsch, what you're reminding me of is that it would be really helpful to possibly create a visual of some of the foundational documents in the school system and sort of show where those live, that the Portrait of the Graduate lives at the top of that pyramid. It is very much the pole star. But to get there, there are other important pieces that you need to move through that would include the annual priorities and initiatives that this board approves, the curricula for each of the various subject areas that this board also approves, the unit and lesson design that teachers do collaboratively through their SDLCs below that, and then actually on-the-ground instructional decisions that teachers make in real time and space with their kids, informed by formative assessments that they've designed and that they are using in the moment. I think it would be an interesting visual to create, and I think it would be helpful for teachers and principals and the community to recognize. This is not content neutral, although I understand how one could look at it and make that assumption.
So this is a meta document.
Absolutely.
But it's totally dependent on all the things you just said.
Yes.
And all I'm saying is a communication about this, it would be useful if we show the explicit connection between the high-end goals and all the other things that we spend most of our time on, which is curriculum, pedagogical. That is, you have to have a certain amount of knowledge and understanding in order to be able to do any of these things. You have to be literate. You have to have come across different perspectives, to be collaborative and so on. If we could somehow explain those connections as part of our communication, it not only tells our students and our teachers that, as opposed to making people do it by inference.
Yes. I like that a lot, and I think it informs Mr. Delventure's question as well. I think the way that we share that with the community, and I'm already sort of visualizing what that graphic could look like and how we could speak to that.
It just gives a fuller story.
It absolutely does.
I would say it actually elevates the value of this, because it says we're not just about teaching knowledge.
Yep.
Knowledge is meant as a sort of a subservient thing to character and person and identity and these skills and these values. And they're inextricably connected.
Absolutely, because you cannot develop these attributes or skills or dispositions to a high level if you have not wrestled with challenging, difficult, even controversial content along the way. One of my sons has a course this year, and he's reading Ulysses, and I'm thrilled because that's arguably one of the hardest books out there. And reading that book will not only give him the experience and the memory and the knowledge of that book, it will make him a better, more critical reader for the exercise. And that is one of the most important roles content plays, in addition to some content being important in and of itself. I really do want to ask the board to approve this document, and we will certainly spend a lot of time sharing it, rolling it out, and putting it into context, as this conversation has pointed out.
Terrific. So I am then going to ask for a motion to approve this portrait of the graduate document.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that is unanimous. This is very exciting. Thank you.
Incredible, really well done.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm more excited than I was before. And I apologize for this. I know this is messy, but I need to open up the next document just for a minute. Please don't look at my email.
All right, so what we're going to be asked to act on next is the 2022-2023 priorities and initiatives. This is a document that we look at every year. It is frequently updated or tweaked or amended. And more commonly, the initiatives, the priorities, initiatives to support the priorities can change below. So I'm going to turn back to you for a description of
Thank you.
what we have in front of us.
And to Dr. Hirsch's point, right, this document will always be a document that lives below the level of the portrait. The portrait of the graduate will be in place across a number of years. Every year, we will be more specific about how we move towards that portrait by looking at these first priorities and then annual initiatives. The priorities for the school district have remained stable for some time. And I think, Dr. Balistraci, you said earlier, except for some wordsmithing that might happen on given years, we really have settled into three important priorities in this school system. And the first talks about the foundational environment that we strive to create. Our schools will be physically and emotionally safe, healthy, equitable, and caring places for learning. And that responds to both students and adults. We are a learning organization. We are a learning community. We are places of learning, not just for the kids. We're not bringing them in and marching them through their learning hoops while we sit back assuming that we know everything. Dr. Orgavan spoke about how we use the summer opportunities for students as learning opportunities for adults as well. But those caring places for learning will also be built upon supportive relationships and positive decision-making. We know that our students learn best through and because of the relationships that they have with their teachers and the educators and the staff who come to support them every year. If we can create this foundational environment, we then move to the next level and we start talking about the professional learning environment that we strive to create in our schools. So this one speaks more to the specific school structure, not just our community environment. And our second priority states that teaching and learning will be supported by instructionally focused leadership. We hire teachers and educators in the school system. We don't hire managers. We hire people who are exceptional teachers and educators at every level. Teaching and learning will be supported by instructionally focused leadership, subject area coaches and specialists, professional learning communities in which teachers collaborate with teachers. Every teacher in the Guilford Public Schools is part of a professional learning community and has professional time in their workday to collaborate and work with peers and other instructors, and diverse instructional resources that will allow all students to see themselves represented and reflected in the materials that we provide. Instructional materials need to be both windows so that some students get to see experiences and opportunities that are unlike the ones that surround them every day. But the instructional materials and resources we use also must always be mirrors that every child can see themselves portrayed in and portrayed in a positive and effective way. And finally, we know that if we create the community environment that we strive to create, we know that if we can create the professional learning community that we strive to create, that we will then create the classroom environment that is essential for every student, and that leads to this third priority, which states, all students will engage in academically rigorous tasks in every class. Instruction will be aligned to content area standards and integrated with the principles of learning, and progress will be measured by the ongoing collection of evidence of learning. Again, Tony Wagner talked about learning through doing. Students are engaged in academic tasks. They're not sitting and listening. They're not just receiving. They've got to be engaged in the activities that will help them to learn. Instruction is aligned to the state standards. We are not a standalone organization. We are responsible to the state of Connecticut, and we will align our instruction to those state standards. In Guilford, we've been working with 9 principles of learning for more than the past 15 years. They have become foundational to the work that we do. Our teacher supervision evaluation plan is built on those principles. They continue to help us to recognize what is essential to create these classroom environments. And we know that evidence of learning is more important than data. We're not just looking at spreadsheets. We're not just looking at how we perform on the SAT or other required standardized tests in Guilford. We are looking at evidence of learning, and that comes from teachers' observations in the classroom. It comes from work that students are asked to create both individually and collaboratively. It comes from questions that kids ask in the classroom. Evidence of learning is much, much bigger than performance data. We're really proud of these 3 priorities, and they come to you this year asking for your approval without a lot of change. And again, we believe that in this dragging tail of this pandemic, that our staff and teachers know these priorities, recognize them, and we don't believe that this is a year to make significant changes. The biggest change we made to these was in the last 3 or 4 years, where we reordered them. We used to start with the classroom and work our way back to the large environment. We thought a few years ago, pre-pandemic, when we were talking about the social emotional wellness of our students, that was important to start with the individual, with that piece first, with the large community, then the professional, and end with the classroom. And so we reordered them. Initiatives this year, number 1 is that we need to Mr. Delaventura's point, do a really good job sharing the work that is collected in the Portrait of the Graduate. This year, we will spend significant time disseminating and unpacking our Portrait of the Graduate with the community, staff, faculty, and the students to themselves. And we will ensure that all new and continuing work aligns with that portrait. Again, to my point about the budget, we can't build the next year's budget without aligning to the portrait that we have just shared and that you have just approved. Next, we are coming out of this pandemic. Students have experienced the impacts of the pandemic, and simply because we're not requiring masking this year doesn't mean that that is all behind us. So as we move out this year, we know that we need to continue to create safe classrooms that are supportive for all learners. I added including LGBT learners, and I'm going to speak to that in a moment, in which students will confront relevant and challenging topics. The board this past July 13th reaffirmed our policy, I believe it's policy 6832, speaking to controversial topics in the classroom. We know, Tony Wagner reminded us, Dr. Hirsch just reminded us that content is important, and you have to wrestle with important and worthy questions in the classroom. That sometimes means dealing with things that are going to make people uncomfortable. Our teachers need to be able to create safe classrooms for those conversations to happen. The classrooms need to be safe for all students. I added the parenthetical notation, including LGBTQ learners, because recently there has been at the national level and even recently in Guilford, some question about whether all students includes LGBTQ students. I added it here tonight. I am not committed to needing to include that parenthetical call out when we create the final document. I do believe that all students means all students, but I thought it was important tonight for this board and this community to know that when I say all students, that explicitly and overtly includes students who identify as LGBTQ. It is not only about learning ability or disability. It is not only about race or ethnic or cultural background. It is not only about religious or political affiliation. It is also about gender identity and sexual orientation. And so again, whether the parenthetical notation is published in the final document, all students means all students when we talk about creating safe and brave classrooms for all of our students. We also note here that we will continue learning about trauma-informed instruction as we develop teacher and student resources that promote social and emotional wellness in our classrooms. Again, this community was talking about social and emotional wellness and the import of social and emotional wellness pre-pandemic. It is only more important as we come out of these last 3 pandemic years. Students do not learn academically well if they're not social and emotionally confident and centered, and it is part of our job and our mandate to ensure that students are social and emotionally well, and that we recognize individual traumas, both pandemic related and not. But that is part of the work that we will continue to endeavor to do this year. And finally, and this almost, again, it follows a similar pattern to the priorities, we will maintain our academic standards. None of the 3 initiatives that come before this one mean that we are compromising our academic standards or our focus on academic learning. We are an academic organization. We will maintain our academic standards, focusing on instruction that requires grappling with different topics and safe and supportive environments. Again, to Tony Wagner's point, students learn through doing. So whether that means wrestling with a challenging topic, whether that means designing a playground or creating and delivering your TED Talk, students learn best through doing. And we will not really grow critical thinkers if we are protecting students from the challenges of doing the work and expecting that they can receive the work from us. Nobody learns to talk without babbling. Nobody learns to walk without stumbling. Nobody learns to ride a bike without falling sometimes. Students will not become skilled learners if we protect them from struggling. And so I believe that the priorities and the initiatives that we've lined out tonight, in alignment with the portrait that you have just approved, built on really rigorous and worthy content creates the kind of environment that we really strive to create in our Guilford Public Schools. And so again, I would ask for your approval of this year's priorities and initiatives.
Thank you.
I just talked a lot.
So there's an opportunity here for us to ask questions, talk about any of the priorities or initiatives that are down here, and go ahead.
So I guess a comment and a question. I would say that the difficult topics and questions are oftentimes the most important ones to be grappled with and asked. So kudos there. For the edification of both our supporters and our critics, could you explain a little bit more about what trauma-informed instruction is? Because I know that's actually a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we've been working for the last couple of years with a professor from Vermont who has been working with us. And the idea of trauma-informed instruction is helping the classroom teacher to recognize that students come into that classroom space every day having experienced a lot in their lives. Some of those are highs, some of those are lows, and some of that is real trauma that kids experience. If a student is actively processing traumatic experiences in the classroom, they're less available for learning. I think one of the best examples I have is I remember thinking back to my time as a principal, and we were working on some classroom supports. We weren't using the language trauma-informed instruction at the time, but teachers were working with morning circles where they developed trust and where students had an opportunity to share what they were bringing with them as they came into the classroom every day. And we had some video, and it was set to music, but we had some video, and in one of the videos there was a young student who was sitting on the floor, and you could tell he was talking to his classmates and his teacher, and he was sort of doing this as he was talking. That student was explaining to his teacher and to his classmates that when he woke up that morning, his family all found out that the family dog had died. And he was talking about how they were all crying, and he came into that classroom and shared that experience. I think it's safe to say that in the old days, when students came in and teachers just clapped their hands and said, all right, sit down, we're getting to work today, it is very likely that Sean could have been distracted, could have not been paying attention, that a teacher could have said, Sean, what's wrong? Where are you this morning? Why aren't you paying attention? By knowing what had happened in that family that morning, that teacher was going to approach Sean in a very different way. Not going to go easy on him, not going to lower her expectations, but know that he had just experienced a trauma and that she needed to be sensitive in responding to that. Trauma-informed instruction talks about preparing teachers to know that every child is coming into your classroom, and what do you do? We're not going to know all the traumas. Not everyone's going to share the way Sean did, but some students who carry significant trauma, we get to know over time. We can put additional supports in place. We can even make accommodations at the classroom level if we need to. But all teachers can adjust the way they present content, the way they structure their classes, the opportunities they create for students to be invited into the work rather than sort of confronted in a way that would shut them down. And so we've been working both sort of at scale with all the teachers to a certain degree, and then what we really like is that we're continuing that work with a small group of support people at each building and volunteer teachers at each building who are going deeper and can then bring that work back to their colleagues and share through those professional learning communities that we have opportunities to share. I don't know, Jody or Jason, if either of you want to jump in and elaborate on that explanation or definition at all.
No, I think you nailed it. I really do. I mean, again, as a principal, seeing the same kinds of things with students and teachers is it's really giving teachers the tools to look at their children through another set of eyes to ensure that they are available to learn and giving them the tools to help the students to express themselves and to activate their learning through that process.
And again, I want to really emphasize, it in no way is a dumbing down or a lessening of the expectation. It is recognizing that students need to be ready to be able to meet the expectations that you hold for them rather than, just a rub a little dirt in it approach. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger sensibility that says if you can't come in and perform, well then we're going to move on without you rather than expecting everybody to meet those expectations. It's kind of like the idea of an athletic coach who recognizes that one of her athletes has a stress fracture. You're not going to push that kid as hard as everybody else. You're going to find ways to keep that athlete in shape and in part of the team building until they're ready to begin performing at the level, in the same ways that everybody else is.
Thank you.
Other thoughts, questions on any of these? I appreciate the explanation that you gave in this second priority. I am 150,000% behind supporting our LGBTQ students. But it's helpful to understand the call out specifically, because I think, right, our discussions over the last few years have
Been all is all.
has,
right.
yeah, but have, you know, I mean, we have had some more targeted conversations around race and ethnicity. So I appreciate just understanding that particular call out. And I'm going to ask that, this is the question I'm going to ask. Do you think our students seeing that would understand the call out or wonder about the call out? Because I do want to make sure that our students understand that all is all.
I feel really good about having been able to say it the way that I said it when I shared with you tonight.
Yeah.
I would actually prefer that the final document not include the parenthetical notation. All is all. And I don't believe that we should try to prioritize or organize different groups. I just felt that because of recent conversations, again, and I'm not just talking about locally in Guilford.
Oh, no,
at state
you are
level and
absolutely right.
nationally,
Absolutely.
I wanted to make sure that I called that out tonight, but I would prefer that our final document talks about all of our kids equally.
Okay.
You could capitalize
All,
Yeah.
bold it, capitalize
Well,
it, put it in
and-
italics.
And I think, right, and tonight was I think you recognized a moment. I think there are moments when we need to identify particular groups of people, humans, that are needing that particular attention and focus. I just want to make sure that our students are reading this document and much like we've been saying, right, for several years, seeing themselves in it, whoever
Yep.
they are.
I
Okay.
appreciate that, thank you. So in fact, I would ask that if there's a motion made, that the motion be made to make it with that adjustment.
To
Remove the parenthetical call-out in initiative number 2, with the understanding that it's not that it's unimportant, it's that it's been discussed.
Does
no
anybody
objection.
have a problem with that? I mean, I know we'll vote, but I wanted to, okay. Are there any other comments, questions, thoughts that people want to raise while we're discussing this? All right. So then, there is a request then for a motion to approve the 2022-23 priorities and initiatives for Guilford Public Schools, with that one amendment to the draft in front of us, which is to remove the parenthetical including LGBTQ. Again, not because that isn't a very important group that needs our attention, but because it is one of several. So moved. So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. I also know that this represents, you know, a lot of thinking by, I believe, administrators, staff, et cetera, so I appreciate it. Excellent. All right. We are up to reports of committees. Policy Committee, anything to report?
No, Policy Committee meets in 2 weeks, and just a reminder,
Thank
those
you.
of us not on the Policy Committee, it'd be great if we could have the full board in attendance for that section of the meeting.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you.
Operations Committee.
So a couple things that I just wanted to share. Number one, our facilities team has been at it, you know, as always through the summer season, and just finishing up on a lot of projects that, you know, just in time, ready to go for school. But the other thing that I wanted to touch base on was, I mentioned it early in the finance report, but Mr. Scanziano shared with us the lease that was just signed on a new space on Church Street. Do you mind me bringing this up now?
No, please do. We're really excited about this as well.
So it's referred to as the Guilford Transition Academy, is that what? Okay, so it's for students aged 18 to 22 who have completed 4 years at Guilford High School, but will require additional services. Students who attend will learn and practice life skills on-site and will be able to participate in community-based and vocational activities in town. And we're literally preparing this space right now for our students, and I believe we already have 2 students enrolled, is that? 6 students.
We have 6 enrolled.
6 students enrolled. It's wonderful. Just thought to share
No.
with the community. It's
No, I
just
think it's great.
such great news, and it's locally right in here in town. And these are, students who would have been outplaced traditionally, but now we're able to be, in-house in Guilford, right in our community.
That's exactly the point I was going to make. By offering this service ourselves at 73 Church Street, we allow Guilford students to receive continuing services in Guilford rather than placing those students out at a private facility that we don't operate and don't control. And so by offering this service locally, we control the service, we provide a better service, we keep our students closer to home, and in fact, we reduce expense by doing it.
Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee.
We're meeting in either October or November. We haven't scheduled it yet.
Okay, excellent. Liaisons to town committees, any?
No public update.
No? All right. And liaison to Luna Board of Directors, I will say, I am going to be sending an email out so we can make some decisions about committees that we might need some board representation on, and we need to think about a representative for the Learn Board of Directors. Kristen has been doing it for several years now, I think, right? So time to find someone else who might be able to do that. And if we can't, right, I mean, it can be a hard time. We may want to reconsider what we've done in the past is kind of sharing the responsibility and making sure that then we report back. Yeah.
That might be really hard.
Yes.
I feel like it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot to kind of, takes a little while to figure out what's happening and understand the players, so it may be easier if we can find 1 or 2 of us that can be dedicated to it.
Okay.
It might be an easier path.
No,
Or
that's
maybe
helpful.
that's it, maybe it's 2, so that it's not monthly.
Okay. No, that's helpful.
Yeah.
All right, good. All right, we are now up to item number 11 on our agenda, which is public questions or comments. These do not necessarily have to be on the agenda. Once again, if there's anyone in the public who wants to address the board, we just ask you to come up to the podium. Please limit to 4 minutes.
Final time?
Thank you. And again, please give your name and address just so we can have it for the minutes.
Okay, I'll give everybody a hand wave at 30 seconds left.
Thank you.
I'd rather not be on camera for what I'm about to say. If you can turn the camera that way, please.
I'm sorry?
I don't want to be on the camera for what I'm about to
So
say.
Kevin, Mike, she's asking if she can not be on camera. Can you just move the camera to the board? Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you give your name and address, please?
Yeah, I'll write it down for you later. So I am here because the last time I addressed this board was after the shooting that happened down in Texas at the Uvalde school. And I told you that the increased presence of police officers inside the school buildings was not helpful. And it's just really infuriating that the day before school starts, I see an article talking about how there's going to be more police officers added for security reasons, and it's completely disregarding every anti-racist initiative for social justice that this board was elected on, has been promising to act on, and it just went out the window with you guys. I don't understand it, and I am thoroughly pissed off because everybody here knows the police is a tool of systematic racism. Our Guilford department is not exempt to that. You ended that meeting, Dr. Bellas-Tracy, saying that you have a good relationship with our department. Yeah, it's true. But you know what? That's your privilege. That's not everybody in the halls. And, I don't know why there was a police officer here. I don't know how many of you paid attention to when there were 2 police officers here, to when they were checking their phones, to when one went out, to when one was standing, to when one was sitting, but I was. Because that does not make me safe. He's here for you, not for me. And shame on all of you for agreeing to this. And I'm going to quote Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that," I'm going to say, that black people's great stumbling block is not the white citizens counselor or the Ku Klux Klan, but the white moderate who is just devoted to order, more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to the positive peace, which is the presence of justice. And you have all failed. Big time. And now, I'm going to say their names, because Black Lives Matter, and this list is not representative of everybody, but it goes back to 2012. And it starts with Trayvon Martin, Wendell James Allen, Sharice Francis, Rekia Boyd, Taman Robinson, Sharmel Edwards, Chantel Davis, Reynaldo Cuevas, Jordan Russell Davis, Melissa Williams, Timothy R. Russell, Dayton Floyd, Carlos Alcis, Andy Lopez, Eric Garner, John Crawford III, Michael Brown Jr., Eswell Ford, Laquan McDonald, Akai Karim Gurley, Tamir Rice, Natasha McKenna, Walter Lamar Scott, Francis Gray Jr., Sandra Bland, Samuel Dubose, Christian Taylor, Curry Lamar Jones, Jamar O'Neill Clark.
I'm so sorry, we are
No, you're not going to
beyond 4
interrupt
minutes.
this.
Thank you.
You're going to show respect to these black lives that were murdered by police officers.
Thank you for your time.
Gregory Gunn, Philando Castillo, Seville Smith, Terrace Clercher, Keith Lamont Scott,
Excuse me.
Jacques Clemens,
I'm gonna,
Charlene Lies, Charles Smith
Clarice?
Jr.,
Clarice,
nope, Stephen Clark, Buthan Jean, Tatiana Jefferson.
I'm going to ask you to please respect our process.
Eric
We have listened
Lurie.
to you, and I'm going to ask you to please step
Taylor.
away from the podium.
Ahmaud Arbery,
Clarice, please
George
step away from the
Floyd.
podium.
David McAtee, Casey Godson Jr.,
Excuse me,
Andre
I'm going to
Hill.
need you to please
Salal It.
stop your comments.
And it's not a comment, it's a list of victims of police
I
brutality.
understand that.
Andrew
I
Seeley,
understand that. This is,
Dante Wright, Miles Jackson,
I'm going to ask that the board be
Winston
willing to
Bobby
take
Smith.
a brief recess.
Amir Thank you.
I'm going to ask for a motion for a brief
Patrick
recess.
Laloya,
Second.
and Jalen
So moved, second.
Walker.
All in favor of a brief recess?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you.
I hope it doesn't have more.
All right, I'm going to now ask us to come out of that brief recess. Is there a motion to come out of that brief recess?
So moved.
So moved?
Second.
Second. Thank you, Arnold. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Is there anybody else in the public who would like to address the board in public comment? None? All right. I will just make one statement. The police officer that was here tonight was here per the request of the board. We have been very fortunate with our community coming to our board meetings. Other communities in the state have occasionally had troubles, and so our police department is working with us to just be a presence, a supportive presence for that. So I just want to be clear. Excuse me, you may not talk to us from the back of the room. Your comments are over. So I do appreciate, I want to name that they are here because we have requested them to be here. That is the end of the public part. part of our meeting. We do have an executive session on the agenda.
See if anyone else wants to make comments.
Oh, I thought I did? Yeah, okay. We are going to, on the executive session, have a number of things to talk about. I will ask for a motion to go into executive session. Arnold
So
Scretta,
moved.
thank you. Jen Baldwin, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will be discussing contract negotiations and possible pending litigation. We will come out of executive session, but we will not be having any further discussion or taking any votes. So, for all intents and purposes, then, the public is free to go. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Good luck.